So this is the tutorial for Cubism. The first thing you'll have done is you'll have taken approximately 15 to 20 images of the same person from different points of view. Once you have those images, they need to be placed into a single folder. You will hit File, Automate, and go to Photo Merge. Under Photo Merge, there are a whole bunch of different options, which some of them are actually quite cool, but we're going to stick to Auto at this point. You're going to hit Browse, and you're going to find all of your images. You're looking for about 12 to 15 of them, and you're going to need to select all of them, and then you're going to hit OK. It'll load all of them in there, so there will be about 15 files. I didn't load all of them because it tends to slow down the computer. Then you're going to hit OK, and it's going to take all of your images, and it will merge them into one file. So if we take a look down here, I have a whole bunch of images. Now, this is a bunch of space that's been not used. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to hit crop, and I'm going to crop down so that I'm only using the space that the images were actually uploaded to. Once this is done cropping, I'm going to zoom in. And as long as all of your images are, pretty nice, and you might want to play with the backgrounds as well, you're going to have some success here. So I'm going to zoom on in. There we go. All right, so as you'll see, I have about 12 different layers here, and some of them don't fill the entire space. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my bottom image, and I haven't hit it yet. I'm going to go to my bottom image, and I'm going to hit Control T to transform. And I'm just going to make sure that my bottom image actually fills the entire space. The rest of them I can change depending on how I'd like. Once I've transformed it, I hit Enter. And from there, I'm going to go to my very top image. You need to go from the top and work your way down. So once I've selected my top layer, I'm going to hold down Alt, and I'm going to create a layer mask. Notice how it just made that layer disappear. I'm now going to go back and start to reveal some of that layer. I'm going to use the rectangular marquee tool. You could choose to use the elliptical if you wanted. Maybe you might want to do, instead of cubism, circleism. But I'm going to start out with this, and I'm going to go over and select part of the image. Now that part of that image is selected, notice how it's selected on the layer mask. I'm going to choose white, and I'm going to go through, and I'm going to color over so that part of that layer reveals itself. I'm going to hit Control T, transform, and turn it just a little bit. I'm going to hit Enter. Control D deselects. And what that is doing is that white is allowing me to see just that part of her face. Now I'm going to go down to my second layer, hold down Alt, create another layer mask. Notice how that layer just disappeared. I'm going to go back to the rectangular marquee tool, and I'm going to select this part of her face. I'm going to go to white, and I'm going to paint through. Now I need to start to see, how do I want to layer these? How do I want them to work? So I'm going to hit Control T, and in this case, I'm going to turn it a little bit, and I'm going to stretch it a little bit, trying to make these layers overlap in an interesting way. Hit Enter, and Control D deselects. So now I have that. I'm going to go down a layer. Now you can do this multiple times on one layer. So for instance, I might come in now on the same layer, and I'm going to go over the same area again. I'm going to hit Control T, and I'm going to twist that, starting to make it a little bit more cubism. Control D. Remember that Cubism is trying to make something so that you see it from multiple points of view at the same time. I'm going to go to my next layer, and this time I see that this layer has some white space. I'm going to hit Control-T, and I'm going to drag that out because I want it to be a little bit bigger. Kind of like how that's looking. Back with my rectangular marquee tool, I see that her face has some hair up in here, so I'm going to do a space about that big. Remember that I need to come in with my white, cover over it, Control-T. Now you don't necessarily have to transform all of them in any way, but I'm going to for this purpose. Turn it, and maybe I'll move this one a little bit. I'm going to move it down there. In this case, because I did not create a layer mask, I literally just pulled that piece out. And yes, I should have created a layer mask, but it is working. So I'm going to continue. Starting to look more cubed. At this point, I'm going to hold down Alt, make a layer mask. And I want to start to remove some of the parts down in the lower right-hand corner. Create a space, grab white, cover over that space. I like how that looks as is. Control-D, done. Looking at my next one, Control-T, open this up, and I'm going to keep pulling that because I kind of like how it looks like that. Okay. I'm just going to leave that layer as is. I sort of like how it is. I'm going to go to my next layer, and in this case, hold down Alt, create a layer mask. Add white. Sorry about the whole, you got to listen to the announcements. Control-T. Not making a huge difference on this one. I really didn't pull much of a piece. I may have to go up a layer. Yeah, I'm going to have to go up to this layer. I'm going to make a giant hole in it. And I'm going to make that hole in this side. The reason I note this is this one is on top, so it's covering over that bottom layer completely. So in that case, I'm simply going to take the rectangular marquee tool, and I'm going to go into here. I'm going to leave her nose, and I'm just going to delete that. Wrong layer. There we go. And I completely got rid of her nose, or what was placed in the background. So I'm going to continue to work my way down, applying layer masks. And remember that you should be placing down an Alt every time you do a layer mask. I'm going to start messing with the sides now. And also remember that you can always switch where layers are located. I'm going to pull this over here. There we go, that looks good. It's really starting to get weird. I still want to keep going, but I'm going to go back up to that top layer. This is where the artistic part comes in. I'm looking for, don't think I'm at, no, not at the top layer yet. I'm looking for this part of her face. And I'm actually going to go to that layer now. I'm going to select her eye. I'm going to hit Control-C, Control-V, And then I'm going to hit Control T to transform it. I'm going to make that eye bigger. I'm going to put it over to the side. Maybe we'll put it... Ooh. Maybe we'll put it right here. But then I'm going to go to the opacity and start to drop the opacity. I can live with that. Then I can also double click on that layer, and I'm going to go to drop shadow. Just so maybe I can see the bottom of that a little bit. There we go. There we go. That's good. And we're going to turn up the opacity a little bit darker. So maybe that's a different way I'm going to deal with my layer. Right. So I'm going to continue to working on this. I'm going to kind of play with the space, try to make it more cubed, or again, you could always come back, and I will do this on one layer so you can see. I could certainly come back and I could create my own shape. I could use the elliptical marquee tool, maybe here. And I'm going to actually copy and I'm going to paste that. And I actually cut part of the layer mask. No, I didn't. I thought I cut part of the layer mask. I did not. Let's pull that piece out, see what it is. There it is. So that's the part of her face that I cut out. And maybe I'll leave that there until I find something that I like and that it's artistic. Once you finish, you're going to want to go to layer. You want to go down to flatten image, which could take a little while, by the way. But you only want to do that when you're completely done and you need to save a copy. At this point, I can come through and I can go to Image, Adjustments, Saturation, and Hue. I'm going to pull the saturation all the way down. And I might play with the hue, I might play with the lightness or darkness, and see if I find something that I like and as a black and white image as well. So that's a simple version of the Cubist assignment.